Good lunchtime, Pascal. Thank you for joining us today. We're very delighted to have you. I'm the director of the French American Chamber of Commerce, and you are going to talk to us today about job research, and you all give us all your advice from a professional. So let me first introduce you. So Pascal has 30 years plus of global human resource experience, gained in 3 different types of industries. As Chief Human Resource Officer for 10 years, she designed and delivered talent and business strategies. She led the HR agenda in major corporations in retail fashion, Michael Kors, Jimmy Choo, and Versace, consumer goods, SC Johnson, and medical equipment, General Electric. She now has her own coaching company. She coaches executives on their results, career aspirations and transitions, as well as their leadership legacy. She's also skilled in supporting leaders that seek to improve communication and collaboration. Pascal has a coaching certification from Columbia University, a French equivalent of an MBA in human resources, and a master's degree in law. So we are going to start your presentation. Just to make sure for our participants and attendees, if you want to have questions, we encourage you to ask them on the questions at the bottom of the screen. And we will answer those at the end of the presentation. And I will be the relay of the questions. So thank you very much, Pascal. It's your turn.
Okay, thank you, Marie-Claire. Delighted to be here, and hopefully, given the variety of the profile in the audience, I'm hopeful that I can meet most of your needs. It's a very important topic, obviously, and it has a lot of content, so I'm going to do my best to cover many questions, not only during the presentation, but as Marie-Claire said, also at the end. If you have comments, questions, I'm happy to take them at the end. So hopefully you can see my screen on your computer right now. So that what?
Yes, we can see your screen. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, so we're going to start. When we do a search, it's important that we start with you. And you're going to hear me talking a lot like a marketing campaign. So don't be shocked. I know you are people, but I think it's easier to think of you as a wonderful service or product you want to market and sell. So you can read the agenda faster than I'm going to do that. But again, I'm going to cover these different points, starting with you as a center of your search. Okay, so starting with you, what's important to remember here is it's, of course, what you have done. And it's important that you think about the different roles that you had, even if they were like non-profit or non-payroll or internship for the students in the audience today. So be as exhaustive as you can with the different roles, and within this role, the different responsibilities you had. Very, very important, and you're going to hear me saying that several times, list your results. I see a lot of resumes with activities and no results, and that's not helping me when I was a recruiter to look at that. The other thing is when you got feedback, either from a boss or colleagues or people around you, go back to this feedback. Doing this exercise has 2 benefits. One, you're going to, again, use that as a foundation for everything you're going to do, your resume, your LinkedIn page, etc. But also when I see my clients doing that, there is a little bit of self-confidence that comes when they suddenly realize, oh, yes, I've done more than I was thinking I had done. So again, a very important foundation for your job search is to start with all what you have done. Then when you've done that, I think about out of these different roles you have had, what makes you different? So it could be an experience you had, it could be a change of career, it could be a special skills you have, different languages, anything. But try to, again, think of you as a wonderful product and service and say why this product or service is different than anything else on the market. Then when you've done that, think again about what you like and what you do not like. Again, it's different than what you're good at. I could have been good at doing a lot of compensation calculation, but it was not something that I liked. I learned to be good with practice, but it may be different than, okay, this is really what I want to do for my next job. So again, a lot of self-reflection about what you like, not like. And it could be from a job content to the size of the company, etc. Then the next thing is your career aspiration. Just before this call started, I was talking with Marie-Claire that at the moment there are different people looking for a job. There are obviously the people whose job have been eliminated for COVID, or they think that it's going to be eliminated. But there is also a category of people who had this time to say, is that really the type of job and the type of career I want to have? So again, having a clear sense of your career aspiration, it's very important as you do the work on you. And then from that, you get the transferable skills. Again, you know what you've done, you know what you like, you know the type of career you want, and then now you can think about, with the skills I have and the career I want, what skills could be transferable to another company or even another industry. And all this work will be what I call your branding. And your branding is going to be a very short statement, and it has to be unique, i.e. you're differentiating yourself here, and also interesting. Think about that as your marketing campaign, right? So this is who you are, and it has to be short, it has to be interesting and impactful. Okay, so that was the first part of a job search. Again, a lot of homework and self-reflection about you. Now we go to know your target. And again, when I advise my client to do that, I ask them, put a list of your own selection criteria. And not every criteria is equal to the next one, right? So financial, i.e. the salary, the location, the type of industry, the size of the company, the type of role in the company, and the company culture. And there are other criteria, I just listed a few here. But again, it's important that, again, you do your homework and say, in my next job, this would be my list of criteria. And which one is more important than the other? And I get it. In this economy specifically, it's good to have a list, but you know you're going to have to make some trade-off. But again, if company size is the most important criteria for you, when you're going to apply, this is an important thing to keep in mind. Also, when you're going to be in position to be offered different jobs, that may help you to make your decision. Okay? So once you know your criteria in terms of target companies, think about the industry and start very broad. So when I think of industry, I think about huge ones, like let's say automobile industry. And then within this industry, what are the sub-industry? It could be the car makers, it could be the accessories maker, it could be the dealership, whatever. So you start putting a chart with the industry and the sub-industries, and then the names of the companies. So that could be a long chart depending, of course, on the size of that industry. And then hard work starts. You're now starting to find people you may not know, but they are in these companies. So they're going to become your contact in these companies. Okay? And then, like any marketing campaign, you have to work on your marketing material. So let me make a few comments on some of the marketing material. Of course, you know you have to write a resume. and I'm going to challenge you and say it has to be either a modular resume where you have different bullet points that you're going to implement and use for a specific job application. Or even better, you may have different resumes. For example, you may be a specialist in a software, and one resume would be more technical resume. Another one could be, hey, I want to also think about being a consultant in technology. So you're going to create a resume specifically for that type of job search. So again, one resume, it's not, I don't advise to have only one resume. It's either you have modular paragraph that you can put on your resume, or again, you have different resumes based on your target. And again, I said it earlier and I would say it again, responsibilities and roles are very important, but more important, what results did you drive? And give me numbers. Give me the size of your budget, the size of your team, the whatever, but I need to see numbers on a resume. Otherwise, it's very vague. And when I was on the other side of the table as a recruiter, it was very hard for me to have a sense of the results and achievement of that person. So when your resume is done, think about your elevator speech. Your elevator speech is going to be, again, a very short statement that you're going to use when you're going to contact people. These people may be the people you know already, your own network, or maybe the people in companies you're targeting, or people who are going to introduce to other people. So the elevator speech here in the US is very important. And it is who you are. So this is what I've done, but very, very short. This is the value you can bring to organization. For example, I love to lead changes in an organization. And then what you're looking for. I'm looking for this type of job, or I'm looking for this type of industry, or I'm looking for this type of contact in this company. So again, your elevator speech, very short, who you are, what you can bring to a company, and what type of role you're looking for. And now let's move to LinkedIn page. Think of LinkedIn as it's your website. It's a website about you, the brand. And it has to, and I put here keywords, it has to be professional. And what by that I mean your picture, the background behind the picture, the statement at the top, all of that has to be professionally crafted. It also has to be memorable. Again, think of yourself as this wonderful service and product you're selling. People need to remember. They're going to see hundreds and hundreds of applications, hundreds and hundreds of LinkedIn pages. So make it stand out for the recruiters. And it could be, again, the statement, your branding, your section about who you are and what about you, etc. It could be also things that you're posting there, but it has to attract the attention of the readers. Thirdly, make it relevant. So find all the keywords in the different jobs you're applying to and have as many of these keywords in your profile. It could be on your branding. It could be on your about. It could be on your experience. It could be on the skills and endorsement. But again, you want to make the job of the recruiter as easy as possible. So they want to see the link, the connection between their needs and what you bring. And by the way, now most companies use softwares to screen resume and LinkedIn page. And these softwares are using keywords. So that's how they screen hundreds and hundreds of resumes. And again, I say it several times, make it different. Again, what do you bring that other people may not bring? And even if you think it's a small thing, again, in this world of many people applying, that small thing may be a difference here. Okay? So here on this page, I try to show the difference between a resume and a LinkedIn page. The most important thing is the length. So you know most of the recruiters would prefer your resume to be 2 pages maximum. Yes, I've seen a resume with 5 pages, and that may be relevant for some people, very, very senior. But for me, I see this long resume is more like the job of a headhunter to do or to present to a company. When it's an individual person writing his or her resume, again, I advise for 1 or 2 pages. Well, the good news with LinkedIn, you're not limited in length. You can have as many experiences as you want. You can have many bullet points behind each of the experience. The other difference between the resume and the LinkedIn is most of the time we recommend you don't go beyond 15 years, unless earlier experience is relevant with your current search. But most of the time, the recruiters won't be interested in what you did 20 years ago. Well, LinkedIn, again, because you're not limited in space and in length, you can add more things. Another big difference, your resume is written at the third person. Manage a budget of. Well, LinkedIn, it's more personal. I manage a budget of. I led a team of. I accomplished this. So again, more personal, more storytelling if you want. Resume, cold, fact-based style. LinkedIn, again, it's more personal, it's more you, it's more your story. And remember, LinkedIn is not only seen by the recruiters, it's going to be seen by your connection, by the people who you're going to try to contact, and the first thing they're going to do is look at your LinkedIn page, etc. So the audience of LinkedIn, it's much broader than the resume, obviously. And there's a lot of flexibility in LinkedIn in adding detail to each role. You can have more detail, more bullet points, etc., which you don't have obviously in your resume. And finally, what I think is very interesting in LinkedIn is you have a multimedia, right? You can have video, you can post things, etc., which of course you don't have in resume. So what I'm trying to say here, these 2 tools are very critical, and one does not replace the other. You must do both, and they are different from each other. The similarity is, again, what I put here at the bottom of the page. Results and numbers are important on both. Okay? So now you need to do what I call them manage your marketing campaign, right? So the first thing I would advise people to do is start with their strategy. Think about the activities you want to have every day, every week, every month. Put some measurable goals, like I am going to contact 3 people per day. Or this next 2 weeks, I'm going to spend all my time and energy in writing my resume. Next week, I'm going to send my resume to 2 people so they can give me feedback. So again, think of a very, very important and very detailed work plan for the project called Managing Your Job Search. And track how you're doing against that, because you don't want to contact people and not following up with them, or you don't want to contact people and when they call you back, you don't remember when you first reached to them. So again, measurable goals and measure your progress and track your activities and results. After you've done that, look at your network, the people you know, and they may be in or not in the company you're targeting. But again, it's still important to rely on our network, because unfortunately, and it's very common in many countries, about 75% of the jobs are filled through network. So it doesn't mean you do not do your profile on LinkedIn, you do not reach to recruiter, etc., but do not forget about your network. You don't know who's going to give you the next information about a possible opening in a company. And on the next page, I will show you a little bit about how to network. So network are the people you know. Then the next people you want to contact are the people who you are in the companies you have identified as your target companies. So again, if you're looking for a job in supply chain, look at Google, look at LinkedIn, look at this company and try to find people in this company who work in supply chain. And then you contact them. Most of the people have two types of email address in the US. So you try both and I'm sure you're going to get to them. And one thing I want to say, it's true every time, but it's true even more now. People want to help others. So you may have people who do not respond to you, but I think people would want to help. And again, the worst case scenario is they ignore your email, they ignore your phone call, and that's not a big deal, you just move on. Then the next people you want to reach to are the recruiters. And they are the small recruiters, the boutique companies, and the big ones. I advise again to reach to both of them. And by the way, in the big ones, reach several people because they tend to be specialized by field or by geography or by level. So again, it's not because you have reached somebody in a big recruiting company that your job is done. Try to find many contacts in these big headhunter companies. Then obviously, more and more, we are applying for jobs online. So I listed a few companies here, LinkedIn, Next, Indeed, Monster, there are plenty of them. So again, look at the ones that are maybe more relevant for your field or for your level, but don't apply just to one. Put alert there, look at all their job posting. And many of these online applications, because they have a lot of resume there where you can, so you can of course look at posting, but you can also post your resume. Very often you need to refresh every week because the more recent resume are going to be the first to be seen. So you just go there and refresh your resume once a week. It could be just a space or something like that. You just make a small edit and again, it starts to refresh your resume on that posting. And then a big advice also I would share with you, if you allow me to do, is look at your time. And by time, I'm thinking about two dimensions. A job search is close to being a full-time job. So if you already have a job and you're looking for a change, think about dedicating about 20 hours per week, if not more. And if you do not have a full-time job, that search is your full-time job. So that's the first dimension. Do not underestimate the number of hours you would have to dedicate to all of that. And the second dimension on the time is not every hour during the day is the same use. So during what I call the office hour, that's a time where you want to reach to people. You want to make phone calls to recruiter, to contact, to network. So that's your office time if you want. And then outside of this office time, that's when you do what I call the back office work. You write on your resume, you work on your LinkedIn page, you look at job posting, you do some application, etc. So again, think of people being available. The people you want to reach are available, let's say from 9 to 4. That's a time you want to give them a call or an email because you can have them. And outside these hours, at a time when you do all your research and back office work. So I was mentioning about the network and how critical it is. We like it or not, this is unfortunately a very, very powerful tool for a job search. So I would like you to think about the people you already know. And they are your current connection. They are people, I call them the old connection, because they were people you lost sight or you have lost contact with them. So again, it's important that you reconnect with them at this time. And then you make new connection. Again, a connection can introduce you to another connection. So again, be very broad in your connection. One of the mistakes I see people doing is, oh, I know this guy and he's going to introduce me to this company and that's going to be good. Well, more than ever, it's important to have different contingency plans. So the more connection you have, the better chance you have to get more information about a job opening or more information about a company that you might be interested in. And again, two worst case scenario, they do not return your contacts, your email or your phone, or too many of them return. And that's a good problem to have. So when you're able to contact these people, you want again to be very succinct and create a memorable moment, right? So you could, again, advise for 5 sentences, not more than that. So the context. I know Bill and he recommended that I contact you. That's context. I have been working in IT for 10 years and I'm looking for my next opportunity. That's your background. The thing I can bring to a company is I lead change through technology. That's your impact. And I would appreciate 10 minutes of your time to get your advice and insight on my resume. Boom, that's what you're looking for from that person. So it's very succinct. People are very clear about who you are and how they can help you. Then, and I know we don't have physical live networking events, but again, either virtual or when the networking event would be again back, talk to people. And same thing, a lasting positive memory. You may have an interesting business card, you may have an article you want to share with them, but whatever you share has to be succinct and people has to remember that you had that conversation with them. Another advice I gave is help people because you never know. One, because helping people, you're going to feel good about yourself. And second, these people may introduce you to other people. And that could be also a non-profit organization. You go there, I don't know, Habitat for Humanity, and you may meet people who are going to introduce you to other people. And when you've done all this work about your connection, please, 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 stay connected. There's nothing worse than connect with somebody, reach to somebody, have a good conversation, and not do the follow-up with them later. Okay? The other things you can do to make more memorable in people's mind is to raise your profile. By that, I try to think about the way people can remember about you. People can remember because they've seen you several times, because you have a differentiating resume, etc. So join professional association, post articles and documents on LinkedIn and other social media. In LinkedIn, you can join up to 100 groups. So again, if you're interested in technology, there are probably more than 100 groups with it, or something for salesperson or whatever group interest you have. Speak at events, even if the events are virtual. Again, that's another way to raise your profile. Write white papers. Again, students may get with one of their professors and write a paper that would be posted, that would be shared, that they can also bring to an interview when they apply to different jobs. And don't forget to clean up your social media. And I'm talking probably more for the young audience here, but remember that when people are going to look for you, they are going to look at other media than your LinkedIn profile to decide. And you do not want anything there that would prevent you to be even considered as a candidate. So now let's say you have an interview. Great, great news. So the most irritating things I have seen in my 35 years in HR is candidates coming to the interview and not have done their homework about the company. There is no excuse anymore. There are so many information about companies, either their official information on their 10K or the Glassdoor with comments from old employees or current employees or their website or the press or whatever. But whatever you find, please do your homework on the company. You can also research the interviewers. Once you know who is going to interview you, Google them, look at their LinkedIn profile. That gives you two information. One, how long they've been in the company, and also maybe their interest. And again, when you're going to meet with them, it's good to have a question that's linked to their profile. People like to feel special. And then you prepare your own question, because it has to be a two-way street. And I know it's hard to think that way now with so many people applying for jobs, but you want to make sure you're making the right decision for you. So you have to think of the question, again, based on your criteria for the recruiter over the company. Fourthly, salary. So several comments. It's never advisable to speak about salary as a candidate during the first interview. I know I'm stating the obvious, but I've seen that. So, but be prepared, because a company may ask you the question, hey, what are your salary expectations? Again, there are plenty of surveys where you can look at and find in that location, for that level, for that job, this type of range is normal if you want. So again, be prepared, because if you get the question, you want to be able to articulate a range for your expectation. And for the foreigners who live in the US and are looking for a job in the US, remember, it's not just about salary, it's benefits as well. Benefit packages vary greatly from one company to another. So again, when it's time and you want to have a question and you have a job offer in front of you, you want to have questions also on the benefits. I'm going to talk in the next page about a concept called STAR, which is very, very important in interviews. So I'm not going to do it now. And many of you, I'm sure, have heard about that, but it's a good reminder for everybody. Also, be prepared for questions the recruiters are going to ask you. And I've put some examples here. And of course, you can find many based on your industry and your field. And then practice, practice, practice. And nowadays, interviews are sometimes in person, very often in phone, and now more and more in videos. So again, practice, because it may feel different to you based on the media the recruiter or the company is using. I say dress for success, and I mean it even on the phone, right? Sometimes if you dress business-like, you feel business-like. So again, think that a recruiter may call you on Zoom or Skype or whatever, and you want to show a professional image. And of course, it's the same for in-person interview, but I will say also on the phone. And then after the interview, do not forget to follow up. And the follow-up is at minimum a thank you note, or best, it's an opportunity for you to go deeper to a question that you feel, I could have answered a little bit better on that one. Or share an article that is relevant to the discussion you had during this interview. So again, a short email, thank you for their time. I'm still very interested about this opportunity. By the way, there was a question. I felt I could go deeper, and this is blah, blah, blah. Or I've seen this article which reminded me about the discussion we had on this topic. So again, do not forget to do a follow-up. So I mentioned STAR. STAR is a technique for you to make the job of the recruiter or the interviewer easier. So STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So the situation is a context, and I put here an example. We were working on a 6-month contract for a client, and agency at that time merged with another firm. So it's just a context of your story. Then what was your role in that situation? I was in charge of leading the transition. What did you do? What results did you, what action did you take? I'm sorry. And so you say, in this example, I was one communicating with each person in the team. And then the results, of course, positive result is what did your action led to. Again, it's a very easy thing to remember, but for any question that you're asked, think about that. And it may not be very extensive, but again, it's a very good way to illustrate either an achievement that you had or a competency. So if somebody say, well, give me an example about how detail-oriented you are. Well, you can say, well, let me give you a situation. And this was a task, and this was my action, and this was the result we got to. So very, very important concept here when you're interviewing for jobs. And on this page, I've put some example of behavioral question that you may get. Again, there are plenty of websites when you see example of behavioral question. And again, they may be different depending on your level or your industry, but they are very often some of them. Like, give me an example of a difficult problem you solve. And how did you do that? Well, again, star. Tell me a mistake. Tell me your weaknesses. Tell me your proudest achievement. All of that are questions that are very frequently used. And again, you can prepare. And when you respond, as best as you can, try to do a star because it connects the dot for the person interviewing you. All of that, please manage your emotions during this thing. Nobody, not even people in HR, like to do a job search. And you have to expect and understand that you're going to have highs and lows. You're going to be excited because, wow, I have an interview. So now all the adrenaline is floating in your body. But then they send you a rejection, or even worse, they don't even respond to you. And then you're going to this down. So this is going to last for a long time. And you really have to anticipate that your emotions are going to follow that, the roller coaster shape. And I put it here, it's not a sprint. You may be lucky and find a job in 2 or 3 months, and good for you, but you need to prepare your financial, your expectation, your emotion for that process to last longer than 2 or 3 months. Do not ignore your emotions. It's human, it's normal. Try not to put them deep in your stomach. Just acknowledge it's normal. It's nothing wrong about you. Everybody going through that process feel the same way at different speed, at different moment, but everybody going through that same thing. Do not do it alone. You have friends, you have families, you have other students, you have professors, you have people who can either just be an ear for you when you're feeling down, or can help you to practice your interviews, or can help you looking at your resume, things like that. So do not feel that you have to be the superhero and do everything yourself and be strong the whole time. That's not the time to be alone. That's not the time to overestimate your strengths. And I strongly believe that a routine is a helpful way to manage a roller coaster. So again, my advice to people around me is when you do a job search, try to find time for other things. So your head, by that I mean continue to learn, read, things like that. So your head is working on something else than your resume and your interviews, etc. Your leg, physical activity, whatever works for you. Again, it's a good way to refresh and get the emotion out, etc. Your heart, again, connect with friends, with family, reach to friends you have not talked to. It's good to feel the friendship and the emotion around you. And your soul, by that I mean, again, meditation or yoga or whatever things. Again, you relaxing your head, your body, your heart and your soul. And while I say a job search is a full-time job, it's you still have time outside of that. And that time is very important to be used wisely. So again, you can go through this several months of a very, very challenging time in your professional life. And let's say now you have a job. Do not waste all these efforts you've made and fail there. Again, depending on your level, the first 90 days may be a make or break. Again, in my career, I've seen a lot of people who had everything on their resume, and the interview process was very thorough, but they underestimate some of the obstacles when they join the company. And you know what, 45 days later, maybe 90 days later, maybe a year later, they were gone. And not because they chose to be gone. So when you get to the point where you are thinking about joining a company and you dedicate time before you start on creating your onboarding plan. Do not only rely on the company or the HR people to do that. Have a discussion with your boss about what success would look like in 3, 6, or 12 months. Understand the challenges and the risk in that position. Create correlation, i.e., try to find people who are going to help you and are not going to sabotage your efforts. Understand what is important for your boss and other key audiences and start delivering on that. And I call that the early wins. There are the things we can do quickly at the beginning and people say, he or she is serious about that. And then you build credibility on that. And then more importantly, manage yourself. Again, joining a new company in a new role can be very, very tiring. Again, set time for you and do some self-reflection and physical, and the same thing I was talking earlier in terms of managing your leg, your heart, your head, and your soul. So that's all I had for today. And Marie-Claire, I'm open to questions, debates, anything people have for me.
Thank you so much. Maybe if you could stop the presentation so we can see you on the screen a little better. That would be great.
Stop sharing. Here we go.
All right, that's good. Okay, so thank you very much. That was very thorough, and I have here in the questions a lot of compliments about the quality of the presentation. So thank you very much. So I have a question here about the work culture differences between France and the US, probably in job recruiting. So that's a very good question, a big one though.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's based on my experience. So people's experiences may be different, but I think the biggest one would be what I call the marketing and the communication. So what I've seen in American culture is people have almost two jobs, their regular job and the marketing of their job. And that goes through when they write a resume, when they make a presentation, when they introduce themselves to other audiences. So performing and delivering results is absolutely critical, obviously. But being able to market your results is very, very important in American companies I've worked with. Again, I'm not doing a generalization, I'm just saying from my experience, what I've seen was that. So for me as a French person, it was a little bit challenging because I was educated in a value that your results will speak for you. So you have to be humble, you have to be modest, do not market yourself, etc. And I was lucky to have different bosses who said, but who would know that you do that? And because it was uncomfortable for me to say, oh, look at me, what I have achieved, and so on and so on, I changed that to my team. So look at what my team has achieved and recognizing them in public, etc. But it's, for me, one of the big difference in terms of the different cultures between the US and France. The other thing, and the point is when you look at that in the resume, And I look at resume of people.
I'm gonna stop you, Pascal, because the sound for some reason has become really strange. Alain, do you have any idea? It's just like you're in a
Okay.
cave.
It's
Maybe.
Is that better now?
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I think, all right.
It's good to be married with a technical guy.
Exactly.
So again, I've seen resumes of people and I knew these people, I work with them, but when I was reading their resume, I say, oh my God, they have an inflated view of themselves. Well, that was my French assessment and certainly not what was expected in the US context. The same thing in interview. My favorite differences is in France and in the US, you have to be expecting the question to be, what are your strengths? Fine. And what are your weaknesses? Well, in France, we may be more open to say, well, I lack experience here and I'm not too good here, etc. And we would be what we feel being honest. Well, in the US, and again, that can rub people the wrong way, we tend to be less upfront with his team. We may take a strength that is overused. And you have to be very careful because there is being candid about that, and there is the, excuse my French, the BS about that. So if somebody say, you know what, I work too hard, and I know sometimes I put too much pressure on my team, that is true, candid, and open. If somebody say, you know, sometimes I work too hard. Well, this is where the wise recruiter would say, you know, you're taking me for a fool here. But there is more assertiveness in candidates in the US, even very junior out of college. One, because I think they've been trained on some techniques. And second, because again, I can only speak from my experience. I've seen my children going through the American system, and it's a positive reinforcement all the way. So you have this natural self-confidence that you project in an interview, which, by the way, again, to a certain limit, it's very good because confidence breeds confidence, but you don't want to go too far, so it's like arrogance. So there are differences, and it's why knowing the differences is important, but also there are differences based on companies. American companies, I've worked for 3 very, very different companies, and a candidate would do very well in one, the same candidate will fail in the other. So again, learning about the company, reaching to people who may have worked in that company or still work there, it's a very good thing because you can again fine-tune your responses based on their culture.
Great. Well, thank you for that very, very extensive, complete response. Very interesting. The differences are so important for you know, when you're being recruited. So a second question is a cover letter needed in addition to a resume?
It doesn't hurt. So it's less and less frequent. So again, that may be an advantage, right? Because less people do it. So if you do it, you differentiate yourself. The challenge is, where do you send the letter at the moment when people are not in their office? But again, I've seen that. And again, as been an HR person, I found like, interesting. And what that person was doing was highlighting for me 1 or 2 points that were important in the job. So again, making my job easier by saying, hey, you're looking for this type of experience. These are 2 examples that I can show and I'm happy to share with you in an interview. Boom, short and making relevant for my needs.
Great question. Okay, another one. After working 15 years in France and working 4 years in the US in healthcare, I feel that French employees have much more quality and experience in accomplishing their work. How can we make the US recruiters understand that hiring a foreign French employee is a great asset for them, especially the culture, melting pot, and past experience as working in a highly regulated market like the French one. So basically, how do you sell that you're French and that it's an added benefit for the company?
It's a tough one because I do not like to put everybody in one bucket. All the French are good and the Americans are less good in that dimension. I strongly believe in diversity. And I'm not just talking about diversity based on our skin color, religion, etc. But there are tons of research saying that the more diverse is your team, diverse in terms of thinking style, leadership style, thoughts, education, country of origin, the better the results will be. It may take longer because it's more challenging to manage a diverse team, but the results, the innovation are going to be outpacing the result of a more homogeneous team. So the way I would position that is, hey, I'm bringing something, and instead of saying it's better or something different, again, differentiate yourself, show things you've done and lived that maybe other people in the team have not seen. So you may say, well, I've worked in an environment where we had less resources than the company in the US. So I had to be very resourceful. I work in an environment where it was a company was downsizing. So it was a more challenging and stressful environment and the company is growing. So again, differentiate yourself and think about the value you're bringing to them, not the value you think you have. You're talking to an audience. You're not talking to you. If I answer the question.
Yes, that's a good point. Saying to them what is good for them, not what's good for you. That's important. I have a second part to the question about the cover letter. Actually, no, sorry. I think you answered that. The question about the two standard types of email addresses, what are they? And I will add my question for me is what you said that. So you seem to imply it's okay to research that, sort of assume this is the email address and send an email.
Yes.
So that would be okay.
I believe, and don't quote me on the number, that 90% of the work email address in the US are on two forms. It's either first name dot last name at whatever company it is .com or the first initial .com. So it's john.smith at abccompany.com or it's j.smith, etc. So what I've seen people is sending to John Smith these two emails. One will be rejected, so you know it's wrong, and one will be accepted. And you know that this is not only the accurate one for John, but everybody in the company is going to have the same form of email address.
And it's going to be okay to send an email out of the blue, not being introduced. Okay.
Yeah.
Push that door. Push that
exactly.
door open.
Exactly. And again, what's the worst? They don't answer.
Sure.
So you don't want to. You do not want to say no for them. Let them say no to you.
Okay.
So you write to John Smith. You've never met the guy. You just say, you know what? This is who I am. This is the value I can bring. This is what I need from you. I need 10 minutes of your time because I am so interested in working in your company, and I need 10 minutes of your time to better understand how I can bring value to your organization.
Great. Thank you. Another question, are hobbies important in a resume?
I would say yes, if you're a junior person. And I'm going to give you the classic answer. Find an individual and a collective thing. So do not have all your hobby being things you do alone, because I may read wrongly that you're not a team player. So if you have hobby, they must be differentiating you, and they certainly should not play against you. Now, for a very senior person, do I care that they read, do yoga and climb? Probably not. But if their hobby was like, well, I climb Himalaya, I'm like, wow, that's a risk taker. That's somebody who can plan a project. So again, look at that as, why would I care?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's something exceptional, as you said before, something that differentiates yourself from the others. Not, yes, not, okay. All right. Thank you.
But a hobby is different than you are involved in non-profit organization.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? So hobby, I see like reading, traveling, playing sports, etc. Now, if you play sport at a professional level, that's a good thing because that's telling me discipline and practice and all of that. But if you are involved in a non-profit, you give your time to a cause, that is an important thing to add on a resume here in the US.
And sports, I mean, yes, and should that be a separate thing from the hobby, or it's included? Yeah.
Again, you don't want your resume to be more than 2 pages. So if you want to have hobbies and sport or other interests, and then you can list everything under.
Okay.
The recruiter may not even get to that page, frankly. And I advise resume, again, you remember your branding, who you are and what you're looking and the value. I advise to put that on the top because that may be, it's like your LinkedIn. Remember, the first 150 characters are the most read thing. It takes an effort for anybody to click on see more or read more. So you want to be the most impactful statement being at the beginning. And the same thing with your resume. You may think the person may only read the caption at the top of your resume. They may never get to other interests at the bottom of the second page. So do you capture you, the unique you, and the value you bring to me as a company in that first? And again, keywords here, and you take them from the job description.
Okay, thank you. So question for a 22-year-old friend who just graduates with undergrad degree in marketing. I have a challenge getting interviews despite having a great GPA. I understand employers receive hundreds of resumes. How do I differentiate myself? How do I make sure I get a positive response?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for many people, and I feel so sad for all the students who are graduating this year. You're lucky to be in marketing. So think about marketing tools and articles that you can either post on your LinkedIn, that you can share and forward, etc. And it's interesting field in terms of there are plenty of media that you can look. So even if as a student you have worked on a project in college, well, put that on your LinkedIn. And send that to different people, and don't say it's just because I'm looking for a job. Say, well, given your company is doing whatever in digital, I found you would be interested in a paper I did when I was in college, or I found you would be interested in that article that I saw here. So again, try to find topics that are relevant for the target companies versus just, hey, I need a job, or please contact me, etc. Again, interest them, attract their attention. And the way you do is, again, you're bridging between what you know and what they need. And again, there are plenty of material and content, and a lot of things are free now because of COVID. So find things that you say, oh, I'm interested in this company, and I know because I've done my research that they're going to do something in that field. Then I'm going to find an article in that field that I'm going to forward to 1 or 2 contact people in that company. So you customize your approach to each company. I know it's a lot of work, and I know it's going to be difficult. So I'm not trying to undermine the time and effort, but that's the only way. Stand out from the crowd. You cannot just send your resume like everybody else is doing at the moment.
I was helping students at Schema Business School for a few years, and I had some students who actually submitted videos of themselves, a video resume. So they had a bar code at the top, and you could just hover on it and you had the video. Would that be recommended? Is something, especially in marketing, I think, I don't know. Is that something that would put off the recruiter, or would they be interested?
I think it doesn't hurt, but don't do that only. And by the way, if you have a video, put it on your LinkedIn page. So it's more, again, most of the recruiters, that's where they start. They don't start with the resume. They say, oh, we know there is a need here. And I'm talking about both the recruiters, the companies, but also the internal recruiters, right? I led a large team of recruiters, internal recruiters, and that's the first thing they were doing. They say, okay, we have this job search. We're going to look at profile where we can find the same keywords than the one in the job description. And then they start looking at LinkedIn page. Wow. And that's, so again, and then they contact the people and then they ask for a resume, etc. So the more tools you use, the better. I mean, you don't have to choose. It's more work.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the advice. Okay. What to do when I got rejected from a position because they preferred to hire someone with less experience at the final step, even if they really like me and I really like the company's culture? Should I apply again?
Yes, because what's the worst? Right? Again, many situations, maybe it's too simplistic, but for me, it's like I'm looking at the worst scenario for every answer. And I say, okay, well, we never know why they rejected me. But it's back to manage your emotion. You can stay angry and frustrated because you feel it was unfair, and it may be unfair, but you're the one living with your frustration. So try to manage that and move on. And the move on includes act back and say, okay, there is another position and I'm very interested in this company. I'm going to put the first rejection aside, ignore it, done. It's buried somewhere. And now I'm going to apply again. That says something to the company that you're very interested in it, which is true. So again, there is no risk of doing that.
Okay, thank you. So where can we find a list of recruiters and headhunters?
Everywhere on Google and everything. So again, they are the big firms, and then you have to look by your field. So depending if you're in IT or in HR or whatever, or finance, they are specialized boutique firms. And by the way, very often they are by country or by region. So the big firms are global, and within the big firm, they tend to be organized either by geography and or by specialty. So you would find Europe HR, or you would find retail US, things like that. So that's why you have to tackle different people in big firms. And then the boutique, you have to do your homework because it would depend on your field and your location. There are companies that only operate on 2 or 3 type of jobs in a very restricted, and they are able to have like 1 or 2 big clients in that geography, and that's all they do. But they have their entry gate to these companies. By the way, one thing on recruiters, they work for companies. They do not work for you as candidates. So they give you information, they interview, etc., but they're not going to be the one writing the resume for you. They may do a report for you to present to the company, but they work for the companies who pay them. They will give you feedback, they give you advices, good ones, but you have to remember you're not the client. The client is the company who pays.
Yeah. And talking about recruiters, I mean, also to answer that person, the French American Chamber of Commerce has some linked with some of them, so we can recommend. And of course, Pascal is a coach, so you can definitely see that person in private, I guess, through your website and answer their questions maybe.
And by the way, I don't have a website, but if anybody wants to follow up with me, they can do on my LinkedIn page.
Yes. Well, yeah, okay. Right. So your LinkedIn page. Another question. I am currently unemployed, thankfully, but any particular suggestions for folks that are over 55 years old in case there are any layoffs? Good question.
I have somebody like that at the moment. And the first thing I advised that person was, okay, relax. The sense of urgency is different. So first of all, reward yourself, recognize yourself, and relax that at the moment you're safe. That said, you have two choices. One is to wait until the next bad news will come, or you start being proactive. Of course, I advise people to be proactive because, again, there is no risk. It doesn't mean because I start my resume, my branding, my list of contacts, my list of things I like, it doesn't mean that I have to act on that. But at least all my research, all my homework, all my self-reflection of what the unique me and what my target is done. So I can still be in the decision-making seat and wait for the company to approach me and say, now you're going to be severed and lay off, or I can start a search. But it's not, again, because I've done the work that I have to act on it. So when people listen to me, I say, there is no harm apart from your time to do all of that pre-work. So one is you save time if something happens to you. Second, it's such a peace of mind because now you can say, okay, there are things I cannot control, like company decision, but there are things I can get in control. And that for your emotional roller coaster plays a big, big, big role. So again, for somebody who feels, whatever their age, feel vulnerable because the company is doing or has done or will be doing layoff, I would advise them to start the homework, thinking about their achievement, their unique them, their target, their branding, all of that we discussed today, and either wait or start putting some feeder out.
Okay, thank you. How long should you wait to follow up on a hiring decision? How often should one follow up after the interview?
So there are two things. I would advise once you had the interview, within 24 hours, you send an email to say thank you. Now, if you've not heard from somebody, I normally give maybe 3 days and say, hey, I've not heard from you. Is there anything else you need from me? Blah, blah, blah. Now, the question was after a hiring decision. And I assume this is, I was rejected.
Yes.
Again, my advice is reach to that person and say, you know what, I understand my application was not accepted. Do you have 10 minutes to give me feedback?
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, thank you. So would you recommend that a professional company such as Top Resume help make the resume and LinkedIn look great? Any particular company you would recommend?
Yes, I would recommend. I mean, it depends on how much you want to invest, right? So the good news is you can do yourself. And again, there are plenty of free resources, which is one of the very few good things of the COVID. A lot of resources are made free to a lot of people now. So if you want to do that, do with the free resources. If you feel that maybe more senior person may want to do something more with more professional help, I would do that. And LinkedIn, again, you can do a lot of things, and there are plenty of resources. And there are sessions just on LinkedIn, but I've been helping some of my clients, and it's not hard. So again, you can hire people. I'm never going to say no, but you can also do some yourself. I mean, even the background picture, you can find background picture on sites and import that. I mean, there are a few tricks to know about LinkedIn, and I learned it the hard way in terms of number of characters and what you can see on your phone versus on your screen and things like that. So my advice would be, it depends on you, how much time you have and how much money you want to invest. I worked with one person for my LinkedIn page because I was totally ignorant about LinkedIn. So she was a great help, and I'm happy to give her name to you, Marie-Claire, so you can send to that person. But I'm sure there are plenty of resources, and there are YouTube videos and a lot of things.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, don't forget, for the participants, don't forget to look at our website for more information after this, and for the recording, of course. Okay, so how important the professional certifications such as Six Sigma, Green Belt for job search?
Very, very important. It gives me two indications. Again, you are different than people who have not done it. And these certifications are hard to get. So it gave me the feedback that you put your time, you invested your effort behind that. So it's not only the knowledge that you have, because this certification teach a process and tools, etc., but it's also giving me the feedback that you're very interested in that field and you invested your time and sometimes your money to get this certification.
Okay. Thank you.
By the way, many of these certifications also are linked to some association in that field. And so it's another way to get connection, right? So if you're in supply chain, there is a certification about supply chain. There is an association linked to that. And you can meet people who are alumni of that certification and now are in companies. Again, another way to network.
What can you do when you're in competition with internal candidates?
Bring your difference. So yes, they know the company, they know the culture, they know the people. Very good thing about external people is they bring a piece of fresh air. They bring new perspective. They bring benchmark from other companies. So it's let me tell you, I've been in situation where we had to look at internal candidates. We had to. And we also wanted to look at external. Our preference up front was external because we wanted to change the culture or change the process. So being in competition with internal is not always a bad news. You bring something they don't. So it depends on the company at that time and the search you're doing at that time, but it could be that for their employee engagement, they have to post a job internally and they have to look at internal candidate, but they may be more set on an external person who's going to bring something they don't have. And there are the times where it's different, where they say, you know what, everything equal, we're going to take the internal candidate because he or she knows the culture. So you never know, but do not declare defeat before the fight because you do not know why they're looking at both at the same time.
Thank you. For the French candidates who don't hold a work visa yet, should they mention the need for sponsorship on the resume or during the interview? That's a good question because we have, of course, some students that are in that case and they never know what to do or put on their resume.
And that's a personal answer. It's nothing official, nothing. I would do just in the interview. Again, you fish, you attract the fish, and then if the interview goes well and the person is very interested in you and you're interested in a position, you say, oh, I'm so glad we're connecting well. I would be misleading to you if I were not to mention this thing. I need a sponsor for my visa, and this is how long typically it lasts, and this is a process, and this is not uncommon, etc. So you tell them the information and you appease them with the information about the process, the length, etc.
Mhm. Okay. Well, thank you. I think we have come to the end of our questions. Thank you very much, Pascal. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I'm more than happy if people want to connect with me. Again, my coaching business has been moving more to help people at the moment in job transition. So I'm learning from many of the people I'm reaching to. And then I'm also learning there, again, I said that several times, there are plenty of resources there. And I know it takes time, but there are plenty of free webinars about to do that. And in the time we had, I could not cover every topic in depth, like we were talking about the LinkedIn page, etc. But I'm sure, and I want to assure you, you're not alone. And a lot of people going through that. So please do not apologize that you're looking for a job. And do not start connecting with people with a sad story, right? So we know it's emotional. We know it's hard to lose a job or to be afraid of losing a job or looking for a job now. But when you contact people, remember, confidence breeds confidence. So as a recruiter, I want to be interviewing somebody I feel equal to. So you're coming with confidence. This is who I am. This is what I can bring. Don't tell me, oh my God, I've been laid off and I'm looking for a job for 6 months. But my previous company was so good. And no, you're talking to me, not to you. And all these emotions, you're absolutely entitled to have them, but not when you're either talking with the contact and the network, or when you're talking to a recruiter. Keep these things to your friends and family and your support group or your coach or whoever. But when you go to an interview, again, you are here for a two-way conversation. You choose them and they choose you. At least you want to give them that impression.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. And I don't think I've heard the name of your business. What do we look for on LinkedIn?
Well, you can just look at my name. I make it easy.
Your
Pascal
name?
Méran.
Pascal
Yes.
Méran. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Pascal. This was wonderful. Thank you for your expertise. And to everyone, you will find this recording on our website and our newsletter. So thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for all the great questions. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you very much. Yes, good luck, everybody.